Jai Hind everyone, myself Dr. Inderjit Kaur, Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad. After covering the different types of testing, that is functional testing and structural testing, that was functional and non-functional we have tested. We started with unit testing, we done with integration testing, we move on to the system testing, and then we have discussed about the acceptance testing. In this lecture, we will be discussing the types of acceptance testing, that is our alpha testing and beta testing. That is how we do the alpha testing and beta testing for the products. As we know, in the SDLC, we start with making the SRS document, then we move on to the design phase and we make the detailed design. Then we move on to the coding part and then we do the testing. So, when we are doing the coding, that means we are starting with the unit testing. Whatever modules, independent modules that we are going to develop, that the developer is developing, they are being tested separately about their working. They are being tested ki they are for their input set of values. We test them, either we can test them using boundary value analysis or equivalence class partitioning that we have discussed, or we can make the decision table graphs, cause effect graph that we have studied in the last lectures. So, after they are being unit tested, let us proceed for integration testing. Means the different modules, they are now integrated together and they are being checked as per their design document ki whether our made design document is right or no. Then we move on to the system testing. System testing means we are in integrated modules, they are being checked and then we go for the acceptance of the product. Acceptance of the product means we are going to check by the user, means customer, and the developer team. So, that is the two types of testing, alpha testing and beta testing will come into the picture. Alpha testing, it is completed upon an application towards the end of the development process. When we have developed the almost every part of our application, that is we are moving towards the end of phase of development, then this testing starts. That is, when I am saying ki the product is towards the end of development process, that means now the product is almost in a usable state, we can use it. So, in that case the different test engineers and QA engineers will test the product. It is performed in a controlled environment, that is the developer is present to observe the users and note down the problems that are being coming. This alpha testing, it is carried out before we release the software to the customer. The product is not handed over to the user. Before handing over to it, the testing team is testing separately in the presence of developer and they are going to check every error and failures, they are being recorded for each kind of input. So, the test cases are designed accordingly to check the different types of inputs. Then let us discuss the alpha testing approach. Here we can see that this is our development house where we are developing the softwares. For that we have gathered the requirements. We can see this diagram. Here, after gathering the requirements, that is the first phase, we proceeded for the development module. In this development module, the entire software is being developed using software development process. So, as the product is being developed, now we are with our developed software application. Now, this software application is being tested by alpha testing approach, different kind of alpha testing approaches. And then when it is handed over means when once it is released, then beta testing come into the picture, that we will discuss next. So, before the release of the software, when it is handed over to the customer for the use of this application, it is tested against different set of inputs. We will give the valid inputs also, we will give the invalid inputs also to know the behavior of the software. So, I can say that it is an approach that is performed to identify the bugs, that is the main important task of alpha testing, to identify the bugs as many as before the release of the product, so that to the real users or to the public these bugs gets corrected. We can say that this is one of the UAT, means user acceptance testing. Then there are two different phases for doing this alpha testing. Let us do that. The first phase says ki it is done by the developers. This is our developed software application, that is the product that we are having in hand after the software development phase. So, first phase of alpha testing, it says it is performed by the internal developers who have written the code. They themselves, they are going to check this code against the set of various inputs ki whether this is working correctly or no, so that the internal logic can also be checked. So, these are the developers, they are checking the software application for the different set of inputs. Then starts with the second phase of the alpha testing. This second phase of alpha testing is done by the testers. The testing team is going to check it to find as many bugs as it is possible. So, the second phase says the testing of the application, it will be done by the testers. So, the first phase of alpha testing, that is the initial testing by the internal developers, and it consists of the internal developers of the organizations. They are responsible for doing this initial alpha testing, and when they are doing it, they uses debugging softwares to locate the bugs as many as they can. Then is the second phase, that is the testing of application by testers. This developed software application, it is tested when it is handed over to the testing team or the QA team, so that additional testing for different set of inputs can be done. So, here my product, it is tested against the real time users needs and requirements. In the first phase, we have checked it for the logic, the internal working of the code that is being written by the developer, so that to know the behavior of the code, to know the behavior of the program or the software written. So, once that is being verified ki it is working properly, let us focus on the user's need and requirements now. So, those needs and requirements, they are known to the tester, and they are now going to bombard those needs and requirements onto the software application to know its behavior, ki whether now it is handling negative set of values, whether it is handling real time values or no. Next is alpha testing process. The process of alpha testing, it occurs in different steps. We start with the requirement review. We have gathered the requirements, those requirements they are reviewed. Then according to those reviewed requirements, the test development phase comes into the picture, so that we can make the different test cases. After reviewing the requirement, the person is coming to know ki how many classes, in how many types the software can be partitioned, how many types of inputs, negative inputs, positive inputs, float type of input means valid and invalid input category is now known after reviewing the requirements. So, once they are being reviewed, the test cases can be developed here. So, once the test cases are developed, those test cases they are executed now. Now, we are ready for execution of tests. Then, after this phase, once they are being executed, we are now with the different logging defects. Means now we are having a report kind, means that shows the logs, different logs, means for this set of input the software has given this output in this time and so on. So, once we are ready with the logged sheet of our defects, we can now proceed for the bug fixation. As we are now with the log report, so that shows a detailed study ki how many bugs are now found. So, once they are being known ki these kind of bugs are there, so now we can proceed for the bug fixation. Our first target was to find the bugs, now next target is to fix those bugs, so that the product can be handed successfully to the customer without bugs. So, those bugs are fixed by the development team, then retesting of the software occurs. That means, tests are executed again for different set of inputs now to check a fresh logged report. So, a fresh log report is being generated and then the bug fixation again occurs and retesting again occurs, so that the execution, test execution happens successfully 100% without errors. Next type of testing is our beta testing. Beta testing means our software is ready. It is the first release of the software is given to the user, to the customer to use it, so that they are also aware of the developed software application and they test it for various set of inputs, and if there is some bugs or errors, it will be taken care in the next release of the software. Practically it is required. So, beta testing we can say that it is performed by the clients of software applications in real environment. Means the customers are now testing the developed software application once it is being ready after alpha testing. So, beta testing, it is a kind of external user acceptance testing, means the external persons are now involved, the persons outside organizations they are involved for doing the user acceptance testing UAT. The alpha testing was in-house UAT and beta testing is our external UAT. Then beta testing, it is done by the customers and the customer side. Then beta testing, it is conducted in the real time environment in which no development will occur at the same time. Then here as I said कि no development will occur, that means developer is not present at the time of doing beta testing. Then beta testing, it is carried out after the software is released to the customer. The first phase is ready and then it takes place. Then the main task for doing beta testing is to report the different errors and failures that are left with alpha testing. Now, let us discuss the procedure for doing the beta testing. It occurs in 5 phases. First, it starts with project planning, that is the company, the organization, it has set the various objectives, and for achieving those goals with the set of rules, this phase occurs. So, the first phase is the project planning. After the planning is over, the recruiting participants, that is our second process. So, this says ki we have to involve so many testers, outside testers, that is calling the testers using incomplete version of the product and providing the feedback about the software, that is involving testing team, recruit testers here as many, so that the incomplete versions of the product is now tested and the feedback is given to the company from where it is being purchased regarding that software. The third phase is distributing the different versions of the product. As we know, Windows 10 or take any kind of operating system, Windows 8, there comes so many versions of Windows. Why that is so? Because first their version is released, that is being handed over to the users. After it is being handed over to the users, the different feedback Microsoft receives them, and then they are being incorporated in the next versions. So, there comes the next versions of OS 8.1, 8.1.1 and so on. So, that is done ki they are going to distribute the different versions of the product, and accordingly the product is updated and it is provided to the beta users to share their experience, and that experience is then again catered into the next versions and so on. Then the fourth phase, that is collecting feedback. Collecting feedback means here the feedback is gathered in the form of suggestions, in the form of comments, in the form of bugs, reports, codes. So, detailed feedback is gathered and it is being distributed in the form of suggestions or comments. Then after the feedback is collected, the next task is to analyze it, to evaluate it. So, that is to review the feedback so that improvements can occur further. Then there are 5 types of beta testing that we can perform. The first is doing the traditional beta testing. Traditional beta testing says ki the product is being distributed to the market and various related data is being gathered so that the further improvement in the product can take place. That is our traditional beta testing. Then second is our public beta testing. Here the product is publicly released to the outside world by online channels and so on, and the data is being gathered. So, this gathered data, it is being used for the further improvements. For example, Microsoft conducted largest beta test for the Windows 8 operating system before officially releasing it. So, we can release our versions of the product so that we can gather the feedback for further improvements and then we can release the product officially. So, this is our public beta testing. Then third kind of technical beta testing. Technical beta testing says ki the product is released to the internal group, to the organization's persons, and then feedback is gathered from its employees. For example, we can make any kind of our project and we can test it in our organization, in our institute, in our college. Once it is being tested, we have various set of feedbacks in the form of suggestions, in the form of improvement from the employees, from the users of that software, and then that is our technical beta testing, incorporating those suggestions and then releasing it officially. That is our next phase. Then fourth kind of beta testing, that is our focused beta. Focused beta says that the product is released to the market. The aim of releasing it to the market is to gather the feedback on specific features, not on all. We are focusing on some special features, that is the name suggests as the focused beta. Then the next is the post released beta. Post release beta means the product is released to the market and the gathered data is taken for the improvements for its future release. Now, let us discuss the test goals for alpha and beta testing. Alpha testing, it evaluates the quality of the product, and beta testing, the main aim is to see the customer satisfactions, how much satisfied the users of the software are. Then alpha testing, it ensures the beta readiness. Once alpha is over, we can proceed towards the beta. Okay, now my product is ready for beta, and beta testing, it ensures the readiness of my product launch. Means once we are doing the alpha testing of the product, then we are proceeding for the beta testing. After beta testing, we can say that our product is ready for launch. Then the aim of alpha testing is to find bugs as many as possible, to go inside logic of my written software, and here the focus is on beta testing to collect the suggestions, to collect the feedback, to see how much effective logics are there, how we can cater those feedback or suggestions. That is our next aim. Then alpha testing says, does the product work? Yes or no? Logically we are saying it, and beta testing says ki do the customers like the product or no? How we can increase the customers, how we can increase the users, how we can satisfy their needs, how we can satisfy their requirements. Then let us discuss the advantages and disadvantages of doing the alpha testing. Alpha testing, it checks the reliability of the software at very early stage. We can come to the internal logic of the software, ki whether it is being, how much reliable it is for the customers. At before releasing it, we are coming to know that its main advantage. Then user gets high quality service and complete functionality, that is its main aim. And then errors and bugs, they are totally removed before the software goes for the use. That is the main advantages of our doing alpha testing, to focus on reliability, to focus on high quality service, to focus on the functionality. And the advantages of beta testing is quality and performance should be increased. Then the problems should be fixed before it comes into the market. Then the main aim for doing the beta testing, the main advantage is to have faith in our customers, to gain customer satisfaction, to gain their goodwill in the market. Then disadvantage. The main disadvantage for doing alpha testing is, here we have to require the in-depth function of the software is not tested, as it is in the development stage it is occurring. And the main disadvantage of doing beta testing, it is totally depending upon the customer feedback participation. If the customer does not participate in giving the feedback, then nothing can happen in the beta testing. That is the major drawback. So, let us discuss the differences between alpha and beta testing. Alpha testing, now we are over with the process phases of both the testing. We can now differentiate it very easily. So, alpha testing, it involves both white box and black box, structural and functional, and beta testing, it uses commonly black box. This alpha testing, it is performed by the testers of organization, and beta testing, it is performed by the real time users. Then alpha testing, it is performed at the developer side, and this is performed at the end user side. Then The main aim of alpha testing is to provide reliability and security, and here reliability, security, robustness, everything is checked. Then it ensures the quality of the product before we proceed for the beta testing. Once we are over with the alpha, we proceed for beta and then we launch the first version of the software. And beta testing, it incorporates the quality of the product and ensures that the product is ready for the real time. Alpha testing, it requires a testing environment, it requires a lab for the tester, and it does not require anything because it is done by users. It requires long execution cycle and it requires only few weeks. Then developers can immediately address their problem that are coming in the alpha testing, and here those issues, feedbacks, the result of beta testing, it comes in the next version of the software. So, let us discuss one question that says, suppose we are being given a function that calculates the roots of the quadratic equation ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. The function, it stores two real roots, root 1 and root 2, and it returns the status of the validity of the roots. Then it handles four kinds of cases. The first case is when the coefficient is 0 irrespective of the discriminant, when a is 0. When second case, when the discriminant is positive. The third case, when the discriminant is 0, and the fourth case, when discriminant is negative. In cases second and third, the stored roots are said to be valid, else 0 is stored in the roots. So, for this we have defined the roots as float A, float B, float C, and root 1 and root 2, they are also defined as float. Now, the software test engineer is assigned to do the black box testing. So, he comes up with test cases and he finds many of the test cases, they are redundant. Now, our target is to find the non-redundant test using equivalence class partitioning approach for black box testing. These are the test cases, 6 test cases given to us for the different inputs at A, B and C, and the expected output for root 1 and root 2 is also given and the return value is also given. Now, let us decide which test cases they are non-redundant and when we are doing the black box testing. So, this will come out to be not applicable when we will do this. Then again not applicable 007 when we have given to calculate this is my quadratic equation. This is how I calculate the roots minus b plus minus b square minus 4ac upon 2a. This is the plus is for root 1 and when minus root 2. So, these two roots they are calculated putting these ABC values T1. So, it gives me, it is not applicable. For second value it is also not applicable. For T3 suppose I put 1, 2 and 1 and with the I get the values minus 1 and minus 1, it gives me the value as 0. Again this is 0, the value here comes 16 and here it is minus 15, and suppose I classify them as per the equivalent classes. Here I can make 4 equivalence classes, one when A is 0, the second when the discriminant means the square root of b square minus 4ac is second is positive. Third is b square minus 4ac is less than 0 and fourth is negative. The fourth case, that is, so accordingly I will write here the first equivalence class, it will come into the 3, then 3, 2 and 4. So, if I have to gather the non-redundant test cases, so this gives me the T2, T2, T3, T3 and T2 I can take only one. So, I am going to take T2, then this value T3, T4, T5 and T6. Here I have covered all the equivalent classes positive, negative, 0 and Na. So, my test cases will become T2, T4, T5 and T6. Out of these 6 test cases, I will take T2, T4, T5 and T6. I can make the non-redundant test cases. So, this was all about the alpha and beta testing of the product, and we have covered one numerical also for discussing the non-redundant sets for equivalence class testing when we are doing the black box testing. Thank you.